Can small, seemingly meaningless actions change everything? Wanted to tell you a story with a lesson. I was antelope hunting years ago. I woke up early before my dad and brother, the slackers, were sleeping in. And I went off on this ridge where we were glassing, and I spotted antelope. They were only 3.5 miles away. And so I headed off in that direction. Had my compass, double-checked I had that, and went off. I was fortunate enough to harvest an antelope. And so I got my antelope all packed up, and I'm like, this is too long of a trip. I'm going to pack it out in one pack. And so I went back towards camp. It was west, and I knew it. And so I got it on my compass and went off west with my game. It was about 98 degrees that day in the Steens Mountains of Oregon. And I had a certain amount of water that would get me back home. It's about 5 miles back to camp. And so I headed off west. And as I went, it seemed like it was a lot longer, like I should be there by now, after hours. And the water was getting low, eventually gone. But I knew we were west, and so I kept going back west. I went forever. Because we weren't exactly west of where I was. I had my compass, but I didn't have a map. I sat down under this tree, exhausted with the heat exhaustion kicking in, seeing stars. This is another one of Zach almost died adventures. See, it wasn't 5 miles, I went over 10 miles because not only were we not west, we were southwest, and I just kept going west, but the road that we were camped along bent back. And so I was miles lost under a tree. Luckily, my CB worked. And finally, I was able to get my dad and brother who came driving and said, just look for a car, maybe you'll see it. I wasn't 150 yards from a road, thank goodness. And they helped get me back. A seamless few degrees off over miles created a dramatic, disastrous result. You don't want disaster results, though. You want good results. So how do we do seemingly small things that go in a great direction, not in a dumb death direction? In Zechariah 4:10 it says, who dares to despise the small things? And it's basically talking about the cornerstone coming, Jesus, a seemingly small baby being born that changed everything. See, small actions change, but how do they change for good? The first thing we need to be rooted in so that our small actions matter is love. In 1 John 4:16, it says that everything should be rooted in love. And God is love. When our actions are rooted in manipulation or coercion or making someone do something, that's not love, and that doesn't lead to a great area. See, I can wash the dishes for my lovely bride, a seemingly small act, and if it's done in actual love, eventually it bears fruit. Profitable marriage, a loving marriage, connection between us two. And sometimes I wash the dishes and that is the truth. It's rooted in love. Other times I wash the dishes and I realize I more did it in manipulation because it's revealed when I don't get the response that I wanted. Like I wash the dishes and do other chores around the house and I kind of sit there and wait for her to notice in more of a manipulative fashion. Have you been there where your motive is revealed after the fact? Just remember that that's not going to bear good fruit. It's okay, but you didn't do it in love. You did it to gain something. And like I said, I do that often. I have to check my motives. Check your motives, that the small things you're doing are actually rooted in love, because that will change everything. Number 2, that they're rooted in truth. See, everything else is unsteady ground. And in a culture where it says, my truth, your truth, there is a truth. And it's Scripture. That's what I found for my life, that I will form my life based on that. And that is a ground that is steady. And everything else I've found that I've tried to root it in is sinking sand. So root your actions in truth. See, in that antelope story, the one where I almost died under the tree, 100 yards from a road, very dramatic. It wasn't truth. We weren't west. We were southwest, and I was rooted in the wrong thing. And that's what almost led to my demise. Like, I haven't been that scared and lost in a long time because I was rooted in falsehood and unaware of it. So root your small actions in truth. Number 3, be faithful. Be faithful. It's the many small steps. I was counseling someone a few weeks ago, they will not be named, that was talking about that they had been doing some small steps in their marriage and it hadn't changed anything. It was like a week. All right? Small steps change everything over time. See, when I left that where I had gotten the antelope and went back towards camp, at first, probably the first mile would have been the same. It would have looked identical. It was over time that I got way off the mark. It's over time that we come way back to the mark. Water erodes rock given enough time. Oftentimes we do these small things and we expect a result right away. And that's not the way it works. After all, it's a small step, but it's the right step. See, for years I tried to do home run hits. Like that was everything. But I realized if you don't like baseball, you're not going to understand the analogy, but just baseball hit after baseball hit, single after single, creates a dramatic result. Keep your actions rooted in love, truth, and be faithful to it, and God will take you places you could never imagine.